I'm Shannon Thresher, and this is 30 Second Tactics. Today we're going to talk about what department is right for you. Whether you're a young guy or gal trying to get into law enforcement, or if you've been a cop for a while and you're just not real happy where you're at and thinking about going somewhere else, what are some things you want to consider? You know, what, like the title said, what's the better place to work for? A city department, a county department, or a state department? Now, everything I say today is going to be just based on what I know, what I've seen, and some real broad generalizations. So, don't use this video to decide the next 30 years of your life, but maybe it'll, bring up some questions in your mind that you can answer or get answered before you move to a department. So, and again, in real broad terms, things you want to consider is location. Some people want to work where they grew up. Some people want to move all the way across the country. Some people, want a rural environment. Some people want an urban environment. Consider all these things when you go and look for a department. The size of the department is going to greatly affect your career experience. Generally speaking, the smaller the department, the less variety of assignments. If you're in some little rural department, you're not going to have a bike patrol. If bike patrol is something that interests you, then that's not the department for you. A mid-sized city department's probably not going to have a equestrian division. Going to have mounted horse patrol, and that's something you're interested in. A rural department that has that might be something important to you. Again, it's going to depend on you figuring out what you want and where you can get that. Of course, pay is a big thing. No one gets in law enforcement to get rich, and very few people in law enforcement get rich. But pay is still important. That's why we have jobs. That's what pays the bills. And a lot of departments are going to have a lot, a good difference in pay, even though they're, geographically close to each other. You might have two departments next to each other, and one's, pays 10% higher, but the other one's more fun to work for or whatever. Again, consider these things, but it's your decision to make. Benefits besides straight pay. Some departments are union, some aren't. So sometimes it's a lot easier to figure out what the benefits are. Sometimes you just talk to the guys on the department. Things like what shifts you work, what hours you work, what kind of shift deployment they have. Some departments have 8-hour shifts. Some departments have 10-hour shifts. Some departments have 12-hour shifts. If you have a preference, then you want to aim for that. And policies and procedures and stuff. Do you want to work for a big city, but this particular big city is too liberal for you, or this big city is too conservative for you, wherever you fall? You don't want to be an outsider in your own department for the next 30 years. So try to get a department that fits you. We all say we're apolitical at work, and you are to an extent, but that's still in the back of your mind. You don't want to be the outsider or the miserable guy who has to, suppress his thoughts for the next 20 or 30 years. So again, to break it down, just really generally, I can't stress that enough, the difference between city, county, and state agencies. Generally speaking, and don't tear me up in the comments, or do, I don't care. City departments are going to be more concentrated on traffic control, writing tickets, of course, working in an urban environment, than say a county, a sheriff's department, where they tend to be, and of course it depends where you're at, but they tend to be, counties are more rural. They don't concentrate so much on traffic control and writing tickets because they have bigger areas to cover, they have other things to do. Just the politics on a city versus a county department, because typically a chief of police is appointed, and typically a sheriff of a county is elected. County sheriffs also typically handle the jail for the county, where cities, the bigger city departments, usually have a jail, or holding cells at least, but any long time, like doing your time, is in a county jail. So that's something to consider. Some sheriff's departments hire deputies and jailers, whatever you call them, COs or whatever you want to call them, and some just hire deputies, and your first assignment is in the jail. So if you definitely don't want to work a jail, then you definitely don't want that department. But if you think, yeah, that's a good place to learn and cut your teeth and get some experience before you're on the road, then that might definitely be where you're looking. Counties also generally tend to take care of civil processes, civil papers, evictions, serving civil papers and stuff. And not every department, and some departments have their own civilian division to do that. But again, that's something to look into. Is that something you want to do, or is that something that would bum you out, and is the department you're looking at dealing with that? And then when you go to a state agency, there's basically two kinds of state patrol or state police. And again, I'm generalizing, but generally you have highway patrol and you have state police. And depending on which state you're in, it kind of self-explanatory, where highway patrol basically patrols the highways. And they're going to spend their entire career, with the exception of some specialty divisions within the department, riding the highways, writing tickets, making DUI arrests, and doing wreck reports. And if that's your thing, there you go. There's a place you can do it. Where state police, and again, varies from state to state, will generally be more of a big version of a city department, where they do all policing stuff. Some do just the minimum, and some will literally do everything. The state trooper, gets the call, initiates it, investigates it, follows up, everything beginning to end. And again, this is going to be on you guys to look into what it is you want to do and where it's offered. And again, I know most of this video is just me telling you to figure it out yourself, but I mean, that's what it is. I'm giving you some ideas, some questions to ask, but how can I possibly know what you, the viewer, are looking for? So that's pretty much it. Before I wrap up, I want to mention just a few specialty departments that don't really fall under city, county, or state. Something you might want to consider. There's university departments, schools, colleges. There's smaller departments even for some of the junior colleges, depending on where you're at. And those can be really good departments if that's your thing. It's going to be, you're basically, that university is like a city to you. Now, there's going to be things you don't do there, and there's going to be a different way of approaching the average, street crime, if you will, because most of your customers are students rather than just random citizens. Airport police, I know around where I'm from, a lot of the airport police are also the airport firemen. So if you have a little interest or some interest in being a fireman and a police officer at the same time, sometimes you can look into that. And even if it's just straight police, again, to me, that's not a big draw because of, just basically doing the same thing every day in the same location. But, there are some bigger airports, if you live in some bigger areas, LA, New York, Chicago and stuff, where, there are huge departments that do everything you could imagine, and they stay busy all day long. It's a little non-traditional for your basic, police department, but it's another option. Same thing with like Marine Police or Harbor Patrol, depending on what you guys call it where you're at. There can be landlocked states where there's big marine patrols on rivers and lakes, and then of course, East Coast, West Coast, Gulf of Mexico. Most of those states have some sort of marine patrol at the county and state level. Fish and game departments, game wardens, however they refer to it in your area. That's an amazing job. You get all the law enforcement, plus you get, to stay out in the woods all the time, if that's your thing. Now, if you're a big city guy, that's not your thing. Again, And then last but not least is the federal jobs. There's a ton of federal law enforcement jobs out there. I think at last count, there was over 70. And most people don't realize that. They think of like, okay, FBI and Border Patrol. Yeah. Well, there's a ton of federal law enforcement jobs from, postal inspector to Social Security Administration, police department. I could go on and on. Like I said, last time I looked, there was more than 70 of them. So anyway, guys, that's what I got for you. I hope it gives you some ideas. I hope it was helpful. If you're getting into law enforcement, absolutely do it. Don't listen to the media. The people still love you. Sure, there's neighborhoods that don't, but overall, the people still love you. It's the greatest job in the world. I wouldn't trade it for anything. If you're on a department that's not quite a good fit for you, don't let it burn you out. Just start looking for something else. Maybe take some of the questions that I brought up here and use those to find your next career. If you guys have any questions or anything I didn't cover, put it in the comments. As always, I'd really appreciate a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you don't, please. I got over 90% of my viewers are not subscribed. So if you guys would just hit that subscribe button, you really help the channel out a lot. I really appreciate that. And, like, share, brag on me. If you hate me, get down in the comments and tell me how you hate me. Maybe I can fix it. All right, guys, thanks. As always, work, train, repeat, and stay safe.